Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me on this Thursday, February 9th, here in the Locher Room. I'm Alan Locher. Vincent Russell Van Patten is a writer, media creator, and co-host of the Dare to Dream podcast. Most importantly, he considers himself an inspired citizen of our ever-changing world, motivated by a love for travel, history, spirituality, personal growth, and human connection. In Vincent's debut novel, Arrows of Youth, a young man's inspiring journey to find what lights his soul on fire, he shared what he loves, how he sees the world, and what he's learned so far. Vincent was one of my guests back here in October of 2021, and I have followed his travels through his blogs, Citizens of the World, ever since. He has one of the most poetic way with words that makes you feel like you are along for the ride on his personal journey around the globe. Since his last visit, Vincent spent the summer of 2022 in Lisbon, Portugal, Calabria and Naples, Italy, as well as Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, Israel. He moved to Osaka, Japan last September, where he currently works as an English teacher. I invited him here tonight to join us from Osaka to share what he's learned from his travels, to share some of his favorite cities he's visited, and to share what it was like leaving his family back home in California to live out his dream. Please welcome back to the Locher Room, Vincent Van Patten. Hey,
Hello.
Vincent.
Hello there. How's it
Thank
going?
you for joining from around the world.
It's a pleasure to be back. Thank you for having me, and thank you for
well,
that lovely introduction.
well, I mean it. You know, you have been writing about your travels for quite some time, and I get the blog delivered to my email, and I had put them all in a folder. And I think I reached out to you as I was driving to North Carolina with my husband, and I was reading them all and expressing how much I enjoyed them, how poetic they are, and really wanting you back to share your journey with viewers.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. It's been quite the journey since the last time we spoke. Just been
You've been around since the last time
yes,
we
but
spoke
getting
for
around.
sure. You know,
But getting around a bit.
before we start, tell me about blogging. Do the blogs and words come easy? Do they just flow from your mind?
Great question. It's honestly like it. Yes, that's kind of how I know it is something that I am I should be doing, and that I truly do love just putting how I'm feeling down on the page and trying to create something that hopefully does impact other people in a positive way. And it's this kind of melding of like something that I'm feeling, something that I think could help other people, and also just noticing the way that the world is making me feel. And if I can put that into like poetry, I've been writing a lot of poetry as of late, and just making something kind of beautiful in my own way. Um, yeah, it's really what I love to do. So it does, it's not easy. I definitely have to make myself sit down and do the work. Like it's just from being a writer from over the years. And what I'm learning is that, inspiration, you can't, if you're a writer, you can't wait for inspiration to strike to write. You have to treat it like a profession, treat it like a job. And when you sit down and actually say, I'm going to write every day, this is something that I have to do, that's when the inspiration does come to me. And I think for anybody who wants to do it, that's something that is really important and valuable, to make yourself treat it like a job, sit down, and then that's when, if you get into a flow of doing it every day, the inspiration comes. But it is from, I noticed something about the world. Like I have a moment just out in day-to-day life, and I write down like a note from it. And then when I sit down to actually create something, that's when it all kind of comes together.
I'm so glad I asked the question. And throughout our interview, I have moments from your blog, but I wanted to read one. I try to evoke something with my words, an image, a scene, a feeling, most of all. Yet as much as I try, these words can't fully capture the way life moves me. And life moves me deeply. I love to travel because it gives me the opportunity to observe seemingly insignificant moments of time in unique landscapes, places, cultures. Sometimes I observe, and sometimes I'm lucky enough to be an actor on live stage. I feel that. I get that from everything that you put into words. So well done.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. One of my favorite authors, Norwegian man named Karl Ove Knausgaard, who's a contemporary writer, and he came out with this just 6-volume series called My Struggle. And so he's a modern writer, contemporary, and it's like 3,600 pages in total. And it was one of the first books that I read and got inspired by when I dove in, or not even kind of before I realized that I wanted to be a writer. And this really inspired me to get into it. And he's just a normal guy, human being living in Norway, has the same problems as, countless people dealing with family problems and, everything we deal with. But he just writes about the beauty and the mundane of life. And that's what truly inspired me to see that we all do have a story to tell just in our day-to-day lives. And not even, even if you're not a writer, there's just inspired me to see the beauty in the mundane in the day-to-day life. So that's something I constantly am thinking about and try to evoke.
I think that's so important because I think I've even learned it through hosting the show, and you probably learned it hosting your own podcast. We all really can learn from each other, and those mundane moments there might be a lesson in. I mean, from your travels around the world, I mean, the things that you do share, and we'll get to some of those, things that just happen to you are lessons that you can take something from.
Definitely. Yeah. It's what I love about traveling. It's not another huge influence of mine was Anthony Bourdain. And his whole kind of mantra was, you don't really have to see the sights. Like the sights aren't, I mean, obviously it's important and that's what gives a city kind of its identity in a way. But he was just a proponent of just watching the world go by, just being in one place. And that's my favorite thing. Like when traveling is just sitting at like a park or, just kind of on the busy intersection or a street on like a cafe and just watching how the people exist and how it all just goes by. And that is what I truly love about traveling. And that's kind of my favorite way to understand just the feel of that place, to just see the people live.
I love that. My husband and I just came back this weekend celebrating his birthday in New Hope, Pennsylvania. And just walking across the bridge, a woman stopped us. And, coming from New York City, your back goes up a little. And really, all she wanted to do was spread kindness. And she had a box and she offered us a rock. And we got to choose our rock. And we took that home, and now it's on our shelf. And that, it's exactly what you just described to me.
I love that. Love that. Yeah. That just brings up we're in a crazy time right now. It seems like that's just everything you see on the news, and social media is seen as this kind of negative space. But when you actually just get out there and are meeting people and traveling, and I have found that people are much kinder and more open and receptive than we believe. But it's just kind of in this technical age that things get confusing, but boots on the ground, and it's
Seriously, yeah. She
cool.
was, she said we are exactly what you just said, living in a crazy world. And, we both were for a second and then, made that offering. And it's also like, it was a great way to commemorate the weekend.
That is lovely.
Arrows of Youth, how do you feel about the book in 2023?
Yeah, it's wild. It's been yeah, it's so I'm writing another book about my European travels over the summer, and kind of the second step in this whole journey. And yeah, it's just wild to look back and have that as kind of the first. It's just
The first stepping
makes me
stone.
believe in myself. Yeah, it's like I look
Yeah.
back at that, it's like, okay, yeah, I could do this and I could do it again. And it's to have something worthwhile, that's meaningful to work on is truly the point of it. But to be able to look back at that, it's been awesome. Yeah, that was a huge part of my life, and about I think all of our lives, just the beginning of COVID. And I'll always have that inspire me
Oh,
and hopefully other people.
absolutely. What were some of the reactions for you, hearing from people who read it?
Yeah, it's been incredible. Like just from young people in my generation, like our 20s and 30s, just hearing that how much it inspired them to get out and to talk to people in everyday life. And yeah, I mean, I go back. I don't like read it all the time, but I've over the it's already been like almost 2 years, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, almost 2 years, and several passages. Like, wow, okay, like you could do this, and obviously it is different from like my blog posts and stuff because just the way that structured the book is just different. It was edited
Structure.
and
Yeah.
everything. Yeah, the structure's different, but it inspires me definitely, and I love how it captures just a part of the world that was really important to me, still is, just Pacific Northwest and California. And I think it's going to be very cool later down the line to see my body of work. I mean, I'm getting
For
ahead of
sure.
myself. It's only been one book so far, but to see a body of work will be just to see the different places that you know
Yeah.
that impacted me.
Well, I'm really glad you brought up the second book because that was gonna, be the next
Yes,
question. So I'm glad.
sure.
Keep that up. We did briefly talk about this in our last interview, but now that you are living in Osaka, where did
Mhm.
your childhood dream of visiting Japan stem from?
Good question. Yeah, I obviously get asked this quite a lot. Just why did I move to Japan? And I it's hard to put a specific time on it, but I kind of go with the answer that because that's the best thing I got so far. That when I was young, I loved Pokemon and this show Dragon Ball Z, this anime show that is huge in Japan and it's probably one of the biggest of all time. And that was when I was really young. Me and my brother Duke loved anime and Pokemon was huge. And just I think that gave me just an interest
Huge.
in Japanese culture. Oh yeah, Pokemon is obviously. And I think when I was in like middle school, I was just starting to get interested in like Japanese art and just the aesthetic of Japan and just like nature. And my mom she didn't just decorate like the theme of my room was Japanese. Um, I don't even think I asked for it, but she just kind of made it that way and set the stage. And
Yeah,
over
probably
the
saw you
years, yeah,
playing with the Pokemon, so she might have gotten some
yeah,
idea. Yeah.
something like that. And then I think just over the years, just becoming really interested in just yeah the kind of it seemed so foreign. Like why I moved to Japan and not anywhere else, and why this has always kind of been the goal is it's like I wanted to live in an Eastern like culture, something that could really challenge me and just totally different from what I knew. Like I love Europe, and I think like I'd love to live there one day as well. But like I wanted this real challenge of living in a totally different place that is different language completely,
Hmm.
just different way of life. So Japan just was just the had everything. Just I could have that, and it's so interesting to me. Just this dichotomy of like the natural world and the ancient history, the the culture and everything, and this just modern beauty and modern just technological just powerhouse that Japan is. And it's it's an incredibly safe country and it's just so interesting to travel and it's yeah, it's pretty wild.
Well,
But yeah,
December of
yeah,
2019, you visited for the first time, and decided, right, at that after that visit that you wanted to move?
exactly. Yep. So I graduated college in 2017 from Cal Poly SLO, and I studied journalism, but shout out. And was starting to like I was, we probably talked about this before, but I started realizing I was doing other jobs, like worked in real estate, and but I was writing on the side about traveling, and yeah, just the love of travel and creative writing started to blossom from there. And then in I guess in 2018, I'm like, it's time to go to Japan. Like I've loved to travel and I've always wanted to go for the last like 5 years, and it just seemed like so far fetched, like this crazy idea of going to Japan. Like at that time, it just seemed insane, and I'm like, when you have a group of friends, it's hard to get everybody like on board to do something. So I'm like, I'll just go by myself, and I'm gonna book the ticket. And if nobody wants to go, that's fine. But whoever wants to come, please do. And booked a year in advance and just started planning. And little by little, they all started joining, and ended up going with 9 of us. And for a month, and we weren't all there for the whole month, but like sporadic. But we were all together for, I think, like 2 weeks at one point.
Was there a moment over there, Vinny, that that hit you and said, I can do this and I want to move here?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we just went to this like art exhibit. It's called Team Lab. And it's just, they have like several of them around Japan, I think, in like Hong Kong maybe as well. And it's just this huge like museum that's like it's kind of besides the point, but might as well explain it. It's just this interactive art, technological, just kind of mind-blowing experience that you walk through. And we're coming back from that. We're on the train like above Tokyo Bay. It's raining. It's just, above the water, and it's very moody. I was just sitting there like, wow, this is like, I know I want to move here. Like, it's been so incredible so far. I'm loving it. I know I want to live a life where I'm feeling this way all the time. Just like being in a new place. It's not even that, I'm not happy all the time. It's not like, even when we're traveling and everything, we all have our ups and downs. And when we think we, are living the dream, obviously we're still human, and that it's not always easy. But I was like, I want to at least go for this thing and take my shot and live in Japan. And that first trip was heavily influenced by this man named Adrian Bianco, who is currently is a creative director and editor-in-chief of this online magazine called Sabukaru. It's kind of this counterculture, underground, just magazine about Japan and Japanese life, and just the music scene, the art, everything like that. And on that trip, we were following his ramen guide. He has on his website, like, so Japanese ramen is obviously a big thing, but really don't know how big until you come to Japan. What's beautiful about Japan is just everything is done with such care. Like, even in convenience stores, which are very much part of the culture, like in the United States, 7-Eleven is not a place you go to have dinner. But in Japan, there's either a 7-Eleven, going on a side road here, but this is an interesting point. A 7-Eleven, a Family Mart, or a Lawson's, like every block or two. Those are convenience stores, and you could buy anything at a convenience store. You could get like pretty decent food. It's pretty much a general store, but it's like done very well. It's like clean. It's everything that convenience stores are not in the United States.
Okay.
And the point is that even the people that work at a convenience store are like, take it very seriously. They like welcome you in when you go in there. It's just everything is just done with this sort of care and genuine, just like respect and honor for whatever job it is. So back to the point about ramen, it's people are like trained for years to become like ramen masters and create, incredible ramen, because it's a very big part of the culture here. And you could either get the late night bowl, which is, it's not the best thing in the world, or you could get world-class Michelin star ramen, which I've had several times. And there's like a specific thing that's like the cheapest yet most quality is like a special award for that. So it's like $10 for world-class Michelin star ramen. So basically, we were following this guy, Adrian Bianco's ramen guide throughout Japan. So going to these incredible shops like in Kyoto, Tokyo, Osaka. And this is the first exposure I had to his website and just this fascinating lifestyle that he was living and putting out there. And I really didn't know at the time that I wanted to like be a professional writer or I didn't know what I wanted to do really, but I was feeling that I wanted to live in another country. Japan was it. And on the train, I'm like, so Adrian Bianco, his whole business and everything is in Tokyo. And I reached out. I was nervous. I'm like, I'm just going to email him, see if like somehow I could maybe move to Tokyo and work for his company. And pretty much, yeah, the butterflies on the train, like surrounding my friends, and they don't know what's happening like with me at that moment. And I just start email like on my phone, just email him like expressing my gratitude and that we're on this journey and we're following his ramen guide. And I'm a writer, or at least like I think I want to be. And if you have a job in Tokyo, I'd be happy to move out here and pick it up. And so like was proud of myself for doing that, but he said didn't have anything at the time, but keep on doing what you're doing. You'll find your way pretty much. And that was the first step where it's like, okay, I got like at least some feedback from somebody who is an inspiration to me, and you could do this thing. So that was, the first moment where that was pretty much the stepping stones to everything else.
And you came home. Do you remember telling Dad and stepmom Eileen Davidson that you're going to move to Japan?
Honestly, so I came back and it was right before Christmas, and I was just coming back to the States and returning to just day-to-day life and a job that I didn't like really connect with. And it was kind of like shell shock for me. I was, kind of just in this weird limbo state where I had these like strong feelings, and I was just in Japan for a month, just having like the best time. And then I just didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what was going to happen from there. And I was pretty down for a little bit, just because I didn't just come back and say, yeah, I definitely want to move to Japan. It was like just these kind of conflicted feelings. And I remember it was Christmas, and I like people were my whole 30 people at a Christmas Eve party at my dad and Eileen's house, and just people would ask how's Japan, and I just didn't really know what to say. Like I couldn't truly express what I was feeling, but I wanted to still act like it was great. But just remember like going out on the balcony and like just kind of looking up and tears coming to my eye, like just not knowing what was going to happen from there. And I think when COVID hit was when I really realized like that's when I got the idea to write Heirs of Youth. That's when I realized that that's when I left real estate and decided to devote myself to be a writer. So I think obviously COVID was terrible, but for me at least it all happened for a reason.
It inspired many things. Well 100%. Speaking of Eileen and your dad, they wanted to stop by and say hello tonight, but something came up and could not make it, but they send their love to you.
Oh, that's nice.
I wanted to surprise you with them stopping by.
That would be funny. I think it's supposed to call my dad after this, so we'll see if
okay, good. Well, you definitely do that. But we have to talk about the full circle moment, right? With Adrian Bianco.
Yes. Yeah, Adrian Bianco.
Bianco.
Yes.
Yeah.
No worries. So just being in. So over the years I've written about that experience a couple of times, because that was, looking back, it was definitely the floodgate moment. And
to have somebody you got up the courage to reach out to him and he responded.
Yep. So that was huge for me. And he's an expat as well. He's German but lives in Tokyo. And so it's been over the I've written about that. In like the last year, I think I've tagged him on Instagram a couple of times, just like sharing the story. And he's just responded, not with like huge thing, but just like keep on running, just keep like little things to show me that he saw it. And I think with big people like that, you can't expect to get obviously like a huge letter back. You can't even expect a response most of the time. But
correct.
Just to get
that's the important thing to remember there. You did get a response. We all don't get responses when we reach out, and taking the time for you and the courage to reach out to somebody is the first step, and having them acknowledge and respond is huge.
For sure. Yeah. Honestly, I think usually if you're trying to, with podcasts too, it's trying to get guests that, big guests, it's probably not going to happen for a while. So, but you got to still take your shots if it's important to you. And put it out there. You never know what's going to
Yeah.
happen, but
Put it in the universe.
put it in the universe. So I've tagged him. He's giving back like little things, but so yeah, being here, I was in Tokyo a couple of weeks ago. I had my friend's visit from home and the first kind of big trip together, and first big trip being in Japan this time. And we're in Tokyo and at this pretty niche kind of sushi restaurant. We're the only foreigners in there, but we came here last time to this sushi spot in Tokyo. And I think it was on his like food list on Adrian Bianco's. So it goes beyond ramen. And it's like all the tables are on the floor. It's very local, just very cool place. And I see somebody wearing a Sabukuru shirt. And at first I didn't, it's not just like, it's not very blatant. So I had to make sure it was correct. And the guy, he goes to the bathroom, he comes back, and I confirmed it is Sabukuru shirt. I have to say something. There's no choice. But he's at a pretty intimidating table. Adrian is not there, but I figure they're connected in some way if it's pretty niche. And I didn't just go up immediately. I'm like, okay, when we're leaving, kind of do it casually. And we're leaving. I go up to the table, introduce myself, and just tell them how I know the brand and everything. And they're pretty stunned that I know it. It's pretty rare. And so just great little experience there. Another kind of win for me of just, building up the courage to go say something and express some gratitude. That's really all I was trying to do, is just,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And so I'm going to see Adrian tomorrow, actually. Like, funny you say that. I don't know if he actually did or if he said anything, but I was like, wow, cool. And the next day we are out, so we meet two Australians at our hostel. Every good story starts with a couple of Australians.
It does. Yeah.
Yes. And we're having a good time with them in the lobby. Just this really cool hostel in Tokyo. Another thing about Japan is like just the hostels. Often they're in, or I've stayed at a couple where just like a beautiful cafe down below, where like cafe in the morning, kind of bar in the evening, and then just rooms upstairs as well. So it's just traveling. I'm probably going to go off on many little side notes on this because there's so much to say, but traveling in Japan has this reputation of being very expensive, but really does not have to be. Like, you can eat at convenience stores. And when I say it's not bad, really, you can do it and eat pretty well. You said hostels, and hostels are very nice, and because just everything is done with a certain care. So, side note there. So we're having a couple beers with the Australians, having a good time, and we go our separate ways to this. We just go out for dinner, me and my friends, and they go out, and we end up going to this kind of famous little bar district called Golden Gai in Tokyo, Golden Gai, and it's just known for just like the tiny, quintessential Tokyo, just like 3 or 4 person bars, just like one on the other, 4 stories, just this. It's like just a few blocks of just there's probably 100 bars within this tiny little area, and you like duck into little, through the curtains, and there's like 3 people there, and just kind of get lost in this maze of crazy little bars. And we're going through trying to find one, and we see the Australians just at the spot, just like through the window. Like, no way, there's our friends. Like, should we say something? And we go in, and there's like, they freak out that we're there. And they're with this group of like Swedish students studying at the University of Tokyo. And yeah, we go in, we all start hanging out and stay there for like a couple of hours and just hanging out together. And then one of the students is like, yeah, there's this show at this like small club, and just very, randomly go to that, and we tag along. Lo and behold, it could have been anywhere in Tokyo, but yeah, we go there and we're waiting in line. And so me and Morgan, my like best friend, are the only ones who really know Adrian and just this whole kind of story. And because he was on that first trip, so we took the ramen very seriously, following the map. And Adrian Bianco just pops his head out the window from like the club, and he's like, you guys, all you guys, like, come on in, come fill the dance floor, because like his friend was performing. Like, me and Morgan just look at each other, just no words.
Dumbfounded. Yeah.
Like that. That's Adrian. You couldn't believe it.
Crazy.
And
I mean, just timing of everything, bumping, you left the Australians, bumping into them again, inviting you to tag along. There's just so many moments that you could have veered the other way.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. It was just like,
I love
aligning, saying yes to the experience, and ended up just, it also too was like the ideal place for us to hang out. It wasn't like a huge club where you can't even talk to people, and it was like this small intimate place. Like his friends were performing, great music, everybody's super into it. There's like a great place outside to talk. It was ideal, and we just hung out with him and his posse for the night. And I didn't even tell him any of this. I just was just hanging out, and at the end I told him, like, by the way, you are a huge inspiration to me and a lot of people. Keep doing what you're doing. But that was pretty much it.
I love it. And, but the most important thing you said, you have to say yes. Say yes to those experiences.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
For 100%. Sure. So, I said in the intro, summer of 2022, you go off to Europe, Portugal, Italy, Israel. Did you choose all of those countries prior to leaving? And what prompted those three in particular?
Yeah. So over the summer, I was still, so at this point, I definitely knew I wanted to live in another country, and it was most likely going to be Japan, because it's 2022. I'm just itching to move somewhere or do something. After the whole eras of youth experience, I was living in San Diego, and I was working at a restaurant, but writing and doing the podcast was it still is, my main.
Yeah.
That's my career. And so I'm having other jobs along the way, but that's what I'm focusing on. And I'm like, I gotta do something. The world is starting to open back up. Last summer, Japan was the last democratic country to open, so it was still closed at this point. And I'm just trying to figure out something. I was thinking about moving to Buenos Aires and teaching English, but just didn't happen. And I'm like, okay, love Europe. Maybe just move to Europe and work at a hostel, live at a hostel for a few months and see what happens. And Morgan, who I've talked about, he went to Lisbon a few years ago and just said, man, it's an awesome city. I think you'll love it. And it's just sounded, is one of the places in Europe I haven't been. Just sounded very appealing. For the summer, it's by the water, it's beautiful, ancient city. So yeah, give that a shot. And ended up through World Packers, this company where you could pretty much find any what's it called? Woofing, like working working something on a farm. Like, it's pretty much any sort of work that Worldpackers.com is I believe.
All right, I'll look while you talk.
Yeah, World Packers. And you could just find opportunities to do like work at a hostel, work on a farm, help with like an eco project, help somebody. It's pretty much just a place to find work anywhere in the world where you might get paid, but probably not, but you'll just get to live there and probably eat there for free. And yeah, for people looking to do something new for cheap and have like a meaningful experience, I can't recommend it enough.
Wow, it looks amazing. The country's listed, worldpackers.com for anybody watching. That's incredible. I'm I need to get to Portugal. My mother's side is Portuguese. I've never been and would love to go. You walked in to one of your favorite stores, or one of your favorite brands is a French brand called Homecore.
Yes.
And
yes.
I mean, first of all, how did you learn about Homecore?
My brother Duke Van Patten he's probably the biggest. Uh, he's a walking, talking home core ad.
Billboard for home
Yes,
core.
yes. Oh
Okay.
yeah, it's such a
So
cool
Duke
company.
gets the credit.
Duke is getting big credit on this one. Yeah,
Okay.
it's very unique, just beautiful colors. Everything is very unique and just great style, and not like designer brand or anything. It's affordable and just pretty much. I mean, he loves it. I'm a big fan. And
That's
we
awesome.
went to Biarritz a few years ago, just me and him, me and my brother Duke, and they had a home core shop there. And funny enough, we met the owner, who's becoming, I think, one of the bigger, fashion designers in our world. But they do, it's like just this. Their ethos is really just this, not. It's kind of using what we have in the world instead of trying to create more and fast fashion and everything. It's really creating quality stuff that is kind of harmonious with nature and just culture and
Interesting.
helps the world. Yeah. So
Interesting.
it's
So
a cool
in
company.
Biarritz, you first met him with Duke.
Yes. So we went in there, couldn't believe it. I think we saw him randomly, and this guy is just emits this warmth and just this joy that is really awesome. And we talked to him for a little bit. Duke obviously expressed just interest and everything, and that was amazing. Yeah, just meeting him was so cool.
And then
And
flash forward to Portugal.
yeah, flash forward to Portugal. They have a shop in Lisbon. Um, I think they have one in like Lisbon, Paris. Don't have the one in Biarritz anymore, but maybe like Marseille or something. But yeah, awesome store in Lisbon. I go in there, and lo and behold, once again, he's in there just chatting with customers. Just you know, it's what's really cool about like shops these days and brands I love is creating like a community around the brand and having like events and having people in there to just have a good time in the shop and make it a really beautiful place to exist. And so I just go in there, and everything was so cool, and he's there, and I couldn't believe it. So yeah, that was an awesome experience.
Sent a picture back home to Duke.
Did. Yep, sure did. So yeah, met him a couple of times. We'll see what happens.
That's awesome. But
Yeah.
one of the staff there gave you a list of sites, right, to see while you were in Lisbon.
Yes. Yes, he did.
Do
Yeah,
you
he
remember what are some of your favorite sites in Lisbon?
wasn't so much sites. It's more just like cool shops, cafes, music venues, just yeah, list of like restaurants and things. But what I love about Lisbon, it's like, and similar with Osaka, there's not like you have to go see the Arc de Triomphe and like all these like monuments. It's more just just existing there is a beautiful, just interesting experience. So in Lisbon, it's similar to like San Francisco in that it's very hilly. Like it's all
Mm,
just rolling hills, and it's a lot of walking, pretty much hiking the city, which is great workout. And what makes it amazing is just these viewpoints called Miraduros, just like these pretty much a courtyard, but yeah, courtyards to with amazing views just all over the city. And people just go there, and there's kiosk cafes pretty much at every one and at every like square in Lisbon, which are just these small little kiosk that you can get coffee, espresso, wine, beer, like snacks, and people just go there and just hang out. I have had like my favorite one, Miraduro de Santa Catarina. It's a world class view overlooking like the river, and Los Angeles. To go there and have like wine and cheese would be, you'd have to wait probably 2 hours to get a spot, and
yeah.
then it'd be very high price. Here it's like $4 for a beer and a world class view, and you just go and just grab a seat, and it's just part of the culture, and that was my favorite thing. Just
And that's, I'm sure where the inspiration, the observation of just taking in that beauty.
for sure. Yeah, I'd just go there with my journal or book and just have an espresso, just write in the afternoon. And so inspiring just hearing kind of magic in the world around you moving, and somebody comes on and does a little live performance, not stage, but just people just gather, and obviously the street performers and stuff, and just taking that all in is I love it. Nothing more.
Hope to get there very, very soon.
It is
Well,
beautiful place.
on July 1st last year, you wrote, "I'm in Tel Aviv, Israel, and after my first 4 nights, I can honestly say that this is my top 2 or 3 favorite cities in the world." Why?
Yeah, Tel Aviv.
And I've been there and do agree.
Yeah.
I love Tel Aviv. So
Yes. Yeah, it's such a, I mean, after Europe, it was such a change. So I did 2 months in Lisbon, working and living at a hostel. And that was, hopefully in the next year, I get a book out about the whole experience. Then I spent 3 weeks on a farm in Calabria, Italy, just like this mountain village, which was crazy, just like so different. And then after that, I was like, okay, I think I'm ready just to, have a little travel where I'm not working, just, solo travel. So I went to Naples for 6 nights, and then Tel Aviv for 3 weeks. That finished at Tel Aviv. I just heard that it is, close friends have said it's, who have done the birthright trip, being Jewish and going. Just
sad they didn't have that when I was that age, because that would have been quite the experience. I really think it's a brilliant thing that a young Jewish person can do if they take the opportunity to do so.
For sure. Yeah, it is so cool that people get to experience that and learn about history and everything. And so I heard just that it is a place that I would really love. It's on the ocean, it's warm, it's just awesome people. Everybody's quite beautiful, just living there. It's very healthy. It's just, party city, but it's not what I loved about it, and what I'll explain. It's like, it's not Miami, where it's like honky tonk, kind of like South Beach, trashy in some ways, and it's like kind of leaves a bad taste in your mouth. Everything is just like quality. The food is probably my favorite in the world. It's just Middle Eastern food is so good, and just health, like salads, and makes you feel good. Smoothies and fruit, vegetables, and just go in there and just somehow fell into this awesome group of people, just friend group. I met one of them at the hostel I was staying at, and just kind of took me under their wing. They were all like, a few of them live in Finland, and but like grew up in Tel Aviv, I think, and were coming back, and they're like all high school friends, having pretty much a reunion, and I got thrown into the mix. I was like, "Who's this guy?" Awesome. Oh, it's Vinny. I kind of became like,
that really
I know all of you, but who's that guy? It was
incredible.
Really funny.
I mean, you really can't, even with all the money in the world, you can't really pay for an experience like that. Like that's just living life and letting the things around you happen.
100%. Yeah, and you can't plan for this stuff either. Like,
right.
It's like the thing with Bianco, with Adrian, with this, pretty much.
You could try, and you did. You just, in 2019, you wrote him the note, but you really, you can't plan for how things will play out. It's the universe sometimes, and the universe, didn't offer some great things either, but you turn them into positives, I will say.
Yes. I can elaborate on that.
Yeah. Well, you said after traveling for the past 3 months, and essentially going off without a hitch happened.
Yes.
In Israel.
Yep. So, in Japan, you can pretty much leave your phone anywhere, and it's so safe. Like nobody will take it. People, it takes with a grain of salt, but for the most part, it's a very safe place. And you could, if like on the street, if you leave like your wallet, people will leave it there and not like take it to a police station or something. So like, it's like, oh, they left it there, so we should leave it there so that if they come back, it'll still be there. Wow. It's pretty wild. Yeah. So in Tel Aviv.
That's a great lesson. Us, Americans could learn. That would be a great thing.
Oh yeah, it's quite the opposite. Yeah,
Yeah.
you gotta keep your wits about you. But in Tel Aviv too, so I learned this. So yeah, it's a big night. It was called White Night. I think it's just this kind of national holiday pretty much in Tel Aviv where everything is open all night, like all the clubs and bars and restaurants, and just a citywide party. I think it's called White Night just because it's like like all this, since everything's on, it's like the city is just like light and you know. Might fact check me on that one. But,
I'm gonna look that up later.
yeah,
I think I need to be there for that one year.
it was really cool, and they didn't have it for the last couple of years because of COVID. So this was the first time in a while. I'm in this crew now, so like we're have a few things to go to, and it's a great night. I'm going back to the hostel by myself at like 5 in the morning. The sun's starting to come up. It's beautiful. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go for a swim in the ocean and leave my. I just go in my skivs, my boxers, and leave my stuff on the beach. Not a smart move. Pants and shoes, phone and wallet, both get stolen. My phone and my wallet. I come back, so I go back to the hostel.
Did you notice it right away when you went back for your clothes?
Yep, I like felt my pants and like couldn't believe it. Big learning experience for sure. And my heart just
yeah, I can imagine
dropped.
the heart stops. I mean, you're
Yeah,
being across the world. That is probably all of our biggest fears.
it was not good. Yeah, the beach was, just the remnants of the night before. And I'm just standing there like the sun's coming. It was just this. It's kind of a sad moment for me, but it's still beautiful. The sun's coming up, and I couldn't believe it. Like it took me a while to process. I mean, not a while. It took 5 minutes to process what had just happened.
Yeah, but it took, I'm sure, days to process too.
Yeah, so I was so lucky that I met this group because one of the guys pretty much the next day like took me around the city, like going to different police stations trying to file a report, which was just a waste of a day for him, but like couldn't believe that he was doing that for me. And then I had like no money and no phone either, which was tough. I did have my computer, so I
Communicate.
communicate through WhatsApp, but yeah, I had to like transfer money to him, and he pulled out money and just like gave me cash. So that was incredible. But it's cool in a way not having a phone because I'm obviously social media is big for me, just sharing my journey, and I'm safe to say I'm pretty obsessed at times with just like showing everything that's happening. And
But you did say you were thankful that the universe took your phone.
definitely I had not experienced a way of traveling where I wasn't trying to take a picture of everything and trying to do something that looked cool to post on social media. I was just experiencing it and being there, and people like respected that I didn't have a phone, or like they're like, how are you like doing this right now? And I was just lucky to have my friends there, and and yeah, it was a really cool. I just bought like a little throwaway camera with like filming it, so that was fun. Just having my journal and the little disposable camera was pretty much it. And like went to the Dead Sea, and what is
It's incredible, isn't it?
unreal. It was
Unreal.
it's just like it's this mud. Like when you enter the sea, it's just this like it feels like you're in a tar pit where
Yeah.
it's like I mean, yeah, it's indescribable, but just floating there. You could I was like breakdancing on the surface of the water because you just float this. I was just rotating.
Oh
So
my
cool.
God, that's hysterical. I
It
love
was really
that.
funny.
Yeah, we did a day trip to the Dead Sea in Masada, and then
Asada. Yep.
my husband and I rented a car because he loved the Dead Sea, and we
Really?
drove back.
Wow. Did you go to like did you
We just
find your own
we just
little
drove back so we could go in the water again. But that
Mhm.
was, interesting because, driving in Israel and, you know,
The coolest thing, I
the
mean,
army, checkpoints and things like that. It's a
it
little,
is it is pretty crazy. Yeah, I mean, experiencing that
and
side
they're
of it.
so young. The kids in the army are, everybody goes into the army there. So it's wild.
It really is. And being able to, you look like you could just see Palestine and see, Jordan, I think, from like across.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that, but you're still, you're in the Middle East. It is a hotly contested area, and you can definitely feel it. And
we were there. Some things happening in Jerusalem for sure.
Yeah.
Like, moved us out of the way, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember if it was bombs or sirens or something, but yeah, I would go back to both Tel Aviv and Jerusalem and Israel in general. I would love to travel outside of, the normal areas, but I would love to go back. I thought it was phenomenal.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's you feel it, but it is one of the most beautiful places I've ever been to, and not just the actual beauty of it, but just the people, the warmth.
Mm-hmm.
There's like this feeling of just people aren't, sometimes you travel in Europe as a young man or young woman, and you feel like you don't know who to trust, maybe, and you don't know who is, competing against you if like you're going out. And I don't know, it sometimes just feels like people aren't open to you as a traveler. Maybe the United States, Europe, this is kind of this Western mentality. But being there, everybody is just, they want you to join them in the fun. They want you to
be
their brother or sister.
We were there for my husband's friend's wedding. She lives there. She did at the time. She lives in Spain now. But meeting all of her friends, we were welcomed like insane. But even I love just the fact of you were taken in by this group. You were a solo traveler, from America, taken in by a group of strangers, and thank God, because again, timing. What if you met them after the phone?
Oh, it just came off. Yeah, I mean, I was thinking, I'm like, I seem like an idiot. Like I made this huge blunder, and like, I know, worry about what they thought of me, but they were the coolest people. Like, shout out, if you guys hear this, like, saved my life, and yeah, hopefully we'll be friends for life. Truly made
that's
friends.
That's what travel is, and meeting people can be is friends for life. Just talking to you about going to New Hope for my husband's birthday, just he waking up to his birthday messages, and Italy, Israel, Spain, Holland, having that, and I'm sure that's the same for you, like to have those people across the globe that you have a connection with is really special. And as you said it earlier, I mean, social media, there's the good and the bad, but the good is that you much easier today can stay connected to everybody you have met on all of your travels.
For sure. Yeah, it's so cool that being alive, there is just a thread of what it means to be human running through, no matter where you are, running through this whole experience. And being in Japan, I met the coolest people who, they don't speak perfect English by any means. I speak very little Japanese. I am learning, but
that's awesome.
It's still, we're like, another just crazy thing is, before I left for Japan, I was hiking in LA, Los Angeles, and just ran into, I was with a girl who lives in Los Angeles, and she's half Japanese, and we just hear, and I was like, it was like I don't know, maybe 2 weeks before, maybe like a month before I was leaving, and we're in the Palisades, and we just hear Japanese like in the hills, like somebody speaking Japanese, and she's fluent, and we go up and just meet this group of like foreigner Japanese people, and they're like a little bit younger than us. One of the guys, just this really cool dude, he's from Osaka, like lives here, and I'm like, I'm moving to Osaka, and I couldn't believe it. And now like I came here and didn't even, I mean, we were messing each other a little bit, but I ran into him like randomly in Osaka. Didn't just out wandering around.
It really is, I joke, people joke all the time of, saying small world. It really, really is when you think of like that. And the fact that you were hiking in the Palisades, you heard it and you went over, which is another great lesson. Like we all like I, the same, like my parents are Dutch, and like I'll, walking down the street of New York, I'll hear the accent and be like, "Oh, are you Dutch?" Because why not? Just it's a way to connect with people and share an experience, and you know, kindness goes a long way. It's just, interact with people as you meet them.
Definitely. I think with being a solo traveler too, the best thing you could do is just talk to as many, obviously it's definitely not easy. I still struggle with it, but it's probably the thing I try to focus on no matter what I'm doing is getting what is in my head out into the world. So if I have a compliment for somebody and so often we'll just walk by like, wow, those are cool shoes. Like just go past that person, not say anything. I try to just give the compliment, say something, and even just spark a conversation. Just
Good for you, Vincent. You should. I don't have. I can do things easily, and will usually speak up and stop people and things. But there are a lot of people. I think. I don't think my husband would do that as naturally as I would of complimenting someone. But I think it's amazing, and if you struggle, get it out because you're traveling solo, and what a great way to meet people.
for sure, for sure.
It really is. So talk to me. September 3rd, your blog was titled "The Man in Japan. The next chapter has begun." Do you remember what you were feeling upon arriving there?
Yes, I think so. So yeah, that. So yeah, I'd been here once before. So coming here, I
But
mean, it
it's
was
different knowing you're now living.
yes, it was definitely surreal, just the whole experience of coming here. But when I got here, it did feel not as just like earth shattering as the first time. Yeah, it was kind of this, I was definitely, it wasn't just like I was going on this 1 month trip. I was just so excited to just get there and just get the ball rolling. Simply, I was a little scared. I was like, how is this gonna work? I didn't know anybody here yet. It was just, so I think some trepidation, some excitement, um, and just this crazy feeling of getting here and a slight familiarity of being here before, but also just a little bit overwhelmed with just everything that was about to begin. So yeah, I got here and uh, landed in Tokyo, took the train to Osaka, or landed in Tokyo, flight to Osaka. Then, um, yeah, my first official day was my birthday. So I'm like, not gonna
Oh,
worry.
wow.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna worry about, how everything's gonna go. Just enjoy the day. Just be like a tourist for today. Just have some fun. And I just went to a museum, just went around Osaka, had a good time.
That's amazing. You wrote later in the month, life's experiences are on the other side of fear, and you start that with a lesson from your grandfather. What's the lesson?
Life's experiences on the other side of fear. Was it Dickie?
It was about the fear was your fear of teaching English.
Hmm. Can you give me a hint?
Yeah, I don't remember what I should have written it down. My apologies. But talk about, you were there, you moved across the globe to teach English.
Mhm.
What was the fear that you were feeling?
Yeah, just starting something new, and I probably something that I still kind of grapple with is how is this idea of success and how is this all going to play out? Like, I do fear not getting to the place where I hope I go, which is something that probably my biggest thing to contend with is I know I'm on a certain trajectory that intrinsically it feels like I'm in my own body. I'm feeling good. I'm doing something that I think I'm good at, that I could get a lot better at, and helps people. And if that's all it is, then that's all it has to be. But obviously,
Oh, I mean, you're first of all, teaching English, you're helping people. That's one thing. With your writing, there is no doubt you are inspiring, giving people ideas, all of the things, just saying yes, going up to somebody or talking about your own fears of not saying those things. But, you're doing so much by expressing it in your words. And
Thank you.
it's funny because it's not just your words on paper now. You're helping other people articulate our language in a foreign country.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Honestly, I really appreciate that. Yeah, I've not thought about that way. That is awesome. It is
Yeah, I mean,
teaching.
someday you might be reading a blog from somebody you taught English to.
It's true. I mean, so why also it's just a awesome experience doing this is, I could have come to Japan and just been doing a kind of menial job where I have no connection to, but at least that I'm spending a lot of time doing this thing where I'm learning about connecting with people, that there's this serious, obviously, language barrier, but connecting in different ways and just learning how to be myself without having to use language, and learning how to do something that I have no prior experience in. And it has been so, I mean, learned so much already, and it is just the beginning of this.
It's just beginning. Did you know when you set out for Osaka that you would be teaching English like that?
Yeah. So yeah, kind of interesting. I'll just tell you the roots to this whole thing. So I've pretty much since beginning of COVID, I did realize that teaching English would be the best way to move to Japan, probably any country. Like I was going to do this in Buenos Aires. And then Europe over the summer I knew it was just going to be, I was pretty much doing something as a placeholder until I like moved to another country. But since pretty much for 3 years, I've been looking into different schools to teach at, so there's Eikaiwas, which is what I teach at, which is pretty much a private institution where people go after school or after work or before. So, my hours are like 2 o'clock to 9:45 because people, yeah. So like right now I have the whole morning off, and it's also my day off. But
Good for you.
yeah, uh, but yeah, it's on Saturdays we teach and Sundays, and it's a lot of small classes. There are bigger classes too, like probably 10 people would be the most, but it's not a public school. So pretty much the two routes you could take to teaching English are, you could go through, like the biggest one is called the JET program, and you get put into a public school, maybe in the countryside, probably somewhere a little bit more rural. Or you could do an Eikaiwa, which is, smaller classes, private kind of institution. And that is what I chose to do. And I've been just kind of talking to this one that I work for. It's called ECC, for pretty much 3 years, just showing my interest and waiting. Because, at the beginning of COVID, it seemed, how long this would last. So,
Yeah.
okay, in a year, it's probably be over, and might as well like get this process going. So it's pretty much every like 3 months, I get an email like, sorry, conditions are the same. We'll let you know when anything changes. Every 3 months, 3 years, just waiting for that email where it's like, we're open. And so in Europe, I got the first email. Actually, so I did, before I went to Europe, I stopped in Toronto to do the first in-person interview with this company. And so like, before going on that big trip, things are looking relatively hopeful. The rest of the world was opening up. Japan was still closed. But we're having a first in-person interviews in like Toronto. So they do them around the world. So I go to Toronto, do that interview, and then I do a follow-up when I was in Porto in Portugal. I'm in my hostel, like in the 6-person dorm room, doing an interview just in like the middle of the day, just like over Zoom, follow up. And it was just these little moments were just
My apologies.
surreal. No problem. Just the little moments of like being in this foreign place, and then, doing an interview to teach English in Japan were just so crazy. And those little things are going to be, in this book that I'm writing, because it was just one, yeah, just kind of showing the trajectory. And then I remember in Italy, I'm just in my little abode in this small little like cabin pretty much, and just getting that email of like, you got the job and we'd like you to come in September, because they were saying that the earliest we would come is probably like April. And don't get your hopes up, like pretty much just preparing to, not wanting us to get our
Right.
hopes up. And I got that, and I just could not believe it. It was like a month and a half I'd be leaving, and it just, that moment was just insane. Of,
I
all
bet
right, it's real, it's real.
the excitement began. The
Yeah.
excitement, the adrenaline, I'm sure, started flowing like
Oh yeah.
crazy.
Because I was planning too. I was gonna stay in Europe for like, and just keep living at hostels and working for probably another 2 or 3 months. And I'm like, well, I'm going home. I'm going to Japan.
Packing your bags. And what's the age range that you teach?
Anything and everything. I teach some classes with 6-month-old kids with their moms holding them, to 90-year-olds.
Wow.
So I became like, I had my first like month here. I became good friends with this 81-year-old man, and we went to lunch. He took me to like one of the schools I teach at is the birthplace of sake, like Japanese sake. It's called Itami, and we went to have lunch in a like ancient sake distillery from like the fifth like 1500s or something. It was pretty
Yeah,
cool.
I mean, what you were living truly is um is a dream, really. It is a dream, and keep it up, Vincent. I'm curious, before I let you go, what do you miss about the US? Or do you miss any besides family?
Right.
Is there anything you miss?
I've been thinking about it. Yeah, so family and friends, obviously the biggest thing, but I miss I miss driving a bit. Like I
Okay.
love when I before I left here, I wanted the freedom of not having a car and just, I take the train everywhere, and I do enjoy it how I don't have to pay for a car and gas and stuff, but I miss the freedom of just, being in such a place where it's just you. You can listen to music as loud as you want, and you can go anywhere, and it's just fun to drive. So I do miss that a bit, and it's very cold here, and I don't really mind that, but I just miss the California sun and going to the beach. So, but
Well, but
nothing
that's in
crazy.
you for life,
Yeah,
California.
yeah, that's just part of me for sure.
And lastly, is there, because you've traveled quite a bit now and
Hmm.
written in every, on every beach, at every cafe, at every cliff, is there a favorite place that you visited and written from that
Mm,
stands out in your?
that is a great question. Um, I mean, yeah, so many. Recently, just riding in Hokkaido, Japan, went snowboarding, and some of the best, known as like the best snowboarding in the world, in this town called Furano, and just writing from there about just snowflakes. Was recently wrote about that and connected it to a bigger theme, but that was pretty fun. Um, I know what you're saying. I mean, yeah, writing in Tel Aviv, just at a cafe. I love like writing a story in my journal, like where it's like I'm at the place and I'm writing my journal. And just remember on like it's because it was great not having my phone at the end of that. I was writing all these stories like in my journal to be transcribed later. So just being at like a beach cafe and just watching the world go by and just pen to paper, have like yeah, just the feeling of being there and just being able to really feel it. I mean, that was awesome experience. Riding in Naples was beautiful. Just really love that city. It kind of has a interesting um, perception of it. I think it's kind of this grungy, city by the water, and kind of known for like mafia and stuff, which is not untrue. But there is definitely a love for life there that is beautiful, and I thought it was
I need to
just
get
very
back there. I only arrived to the train station on my way to the Amalfi Coast.
right. Yeah, it is fascinating. Obviously, great food, and it's close to the Amalfi Coast, and I thought it was really cool. Yeah, it's been
Italy's a special
everywhere.
place too. Every
Oh yeah,
place.
Every place. Like I
Yeah.
love, like I was saying, I don't know how long I'm gonna be here. I think at least 3 years, like my first visa, and I would
Wow.
like I would like to go from teaching to, a job that I could give everything I have to, that is on my, like, creative job.
Yeah.
Maybe working with Bianco one day, or who knows? But
It would not surprise me at all. That would not surprise me. Are there countries surrounding Japan that you'd like to visit?
definitely, yes. So like I'm actually planning, I think next month, just like a 5-day trip. Taiwan, supposed to be amazing. Hong Kong, I think I might go to Hong Kong for that trip. Um, Vietnam, South
That's
Korea, yeah,
that's
Thailand,
awesome.
Laos, Indonesia. It's so many, but just in Japan, it's gonna be hard to leave Japan because there's so much to see here.
I
But
bet. I
I
bet.
am, I am excited to, I think for next month to go get out of Japan for just a short while and see another country.
Well, thank you so much for getting up in the morning to talk. I appreciate it. Please stay in touch when the second book comes out. Let's do it again.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It's so much fun.
You're so welcome. You stay well, stay healthy, and keep writing.
Likewise. Keep doing what you're doing.
Bye, my friend.
Much love. See
Thanks, everybody. Thank you to Vincent for joining us from Osaka today. If you haven't picked up his first book, Hours of Youth, I implore you all to do so. I also implore you all to follow his blog. I've included all the links down below where you can follow the blogs and his podcast, the Dare to Dream podcast. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't. You can turn on notifications for reminders of all upcoming shows. Click the like button if you like today's episode or any episode. And don't forget, you can search the Locher Room on your favorite streaming platform and download audio versions. Have a great day, everybody. Stay safe, and I will see you soon.